Let's be honest, our world has become a giant, noisy circus. Everyone's talking, few are listening, and somewhere in between, wisdom gets lost in the shuffle. But what if I told you that silence, yes, that simple, often overlooked pause could be your greatest weapon? Think about it. How many times have you blurted something out in anger and instantly regretted it, or watched a heated argument spiral out of control when a well-placed silence could have ended it? Even Marcus Aurelius himself knew the power of restraint. He didn't just rule an empire, he ruled his own tongue. You see, silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's a strategy, a form of self-discipline, a statement that speaks louder than words. In a world that rewards the loudest voices, choosing silence at the right moments can set you apart, command respect, and even shift the balance of power in your favor. So, when should you embrace silence? When is keeping your mouth shut not just smart, but life-changing? Stick with me, because today we're diving into the 9 crucial moments when saying nothing at all is the ultimate act of wisdom. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Now, let's get started. Number 1. When being criticized unfairly. Have you ever received criticism so unfair that it made you want to scream, flip a table, or at least draft a long, angry response in your head? We've all been there. It's that moment when someone completely off base accuses you of something ridiculous, and your first instinct is to fight back. Maybe it was a coworker blaming you for a project's failure when you weren't even involved, or a friend misinterpreting your words and painting you as the villain. The injustice of it burns. But what if I told you that these moments, these infuriating, hair-pulling moments, are actually golden opportunities? According to Stoic philosophy, being unfairly criticized is not a curse, but a chance to show strength, integrity, and self-control. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who had his fair share of critics, once said, "If something external disturbs you, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment about it." Think about that for a second. It's not the criticism that hurts. It's our reaction to it. It's the story we tell ourselves about what it means. And the best part is, we can change that story. Imagine this: you're at a family dinner, and your aunt, the one who has an opinion on everything, suddenly comments, "You know, you've never really been great with money. I'm surprised you're still managing on your own." Now your blood starts to boil. The temptation to fire back is strong. You want to list every smart financial decision you've made, throw in a few economic terms, just to prove how wrong she is. And maybe even bring up that time she fell for a multi-level marketing scheme. But pause. What would a Stoic do? A Stoic would take a deep breath and remember this. This is not about you. It's about her perception, her own biases, maybe even her insecurities. You don't have to prove anything. Epictetus, another great Stoic thinker, taught that we should separate ourselves from the criticism. You control your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So, instead of seeing your aunt's comment as a personal attack, see it for what it really is: just words, just an opinion. And opinions, as we all know, are everywhere. Some are helpful, some are nonsense, and some are simply projections of other people's fears and experiences. But let's take it further. What if hidden inside unfair criticism, there's actually something useful? Even the most ridiculous feedback can contain a sliver of truth. Maybe your aunt's delivery was terrible, but is there a lesson there? Could it be that you've been meaning to revisit your budget or look into better investment options? This isn't about admitting she was right. It's about using everything, yes, even the unfair, frustrating, completely misplaced criticism, to improve yourself. And here's another radical idea: silence. Not every attack needs a counterattack. Not every unfair remark needs a defense. There's a quiet power in refusing to engage in unnecessary battles. Picture a boxing match where one fighter just stands there, calm, unaffected. The other person eventually looks ridiculous, swinging at the air. That's you when you don't react. You remain centered while the person throwing baseless criticism loses their steam. Marcus Aurelius captured this idea perfectly. Don't waste time arguing about what a good man should be one. In other words, let your actions speak louder than any defense you could mount. This approach doesn't just protect your peace, it changes the dynamic. When you stay calm in the face of unfair criticism, people notice, it sets you apart. It makes you someone others respect because you're not easily rattled. And in the long run, this earns you more credibility than any argument ever could. Of course, this is easier said than done. Our natural instinct is to protect our ego, to make sure people get the facts straight. But if you look at the long game, you'll see that Stoicism isn't about letting people walk all over you. It's about choosing your battles wisely. It's about knowing that your value isn't determined by what others say about you, but by how you carry yourself in response. So, the next time you're unfairly criticized, pause. Ask yourself, is this about me, or is it about them? Is there any truth here that I can use? And most importantly, will engaging in this fight actually benefit me? Or is my silence the real power move? Unfair criticism isn't a roadblock, it's a test. And if you handle it well, you don't just walk away unscathed, you walk away stronger. Number 2. Stoic silence in the middle of boasts. We've all been there, stuck in a conversation where someone just won't stop talking about how amazing they are. Maybe it's a coworker who just landed a high-profile client and keeps dropping mentions of their genius strategy. Or perhaps it's an old friend who suddenly found success and now speaks in TED Talk about their grind and determination. You feel the urge to counter, to throw in your own wins, to subtly remind them and everyone else that you're doing just fine too. But here's the problem: the moment you engage in that game, you've already lost. Stoicism teaches that real confidence doesn't come from proving anything to anyone. It comes from knowing you don't have to. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that what other people say and do is their business, not ours. In moments like these, when someone is basking in their own self-importance, your greatest power move is silence. Not the awkward, insecure kind, not the kind that's seething with resentment, but the kind that comes from deep, unshakable confidence. It's the ability to simply listen, maybe nod, maybe even smile, without feeling the need to enter the ring of one-upmanship. Imagine you're at a dinner party, and one guest, let's call him Jeff, has taken it upon himself to dominate the conversation. He's talking about his new investment property, his luxury vacation, how he's mastered intermittent fasting and now has the metabolism of a teenager. The table listens politely, but you can sense the undercurrent. Some are impressed, some are bored, some are quietly irritated. You consider chiming in, maybe sharing your own recent win, but then you remember you don't need to. Instead, you sit back, sip your drink, and enjoy the show. What happens next? Jeff keeps talking. His words reveal more about him than they do about you or anyone else. And the more he talks, the more obvious it becomes that his need to be admired is just that, a need. You, on the other hand, don't need external validation, and that right there is what sets you apart. This is the power of strategic silence. It's not about being passive, it's about choosing when to engage and when to conserve your energy. It's about realizing that life is not a competition where every success story must be met with another. Instead of measuring yourself against others, you shift your focus to something much more valuable: your own path, your own progress, your own peace of mind. Psychologically, this is a game changer. When you stop reacting to boasts, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of comparison. You become more self-assured, more centered, and paradoxically, people respect you more for it. Because nothing says I'm secure in myself like the ability to let others shine without feeling the need to dim their light or to make yours burn brighter. So, next time you find yourself in a room full of self-promotion, try this listen. Acknowledge, but don't compete. Let others talk. Let them reveal who they are. And in doing so, you'll reveal who you are not through words, but through the quiet, effortless grace of someone who knows exactly what they're worth. Number 3. When dealing with anger. Anger is a tricky thing. It sneaks up on you, explodes without warning, and before you know it, you're standing in the aftermath wondering if it was really worth it. And yet, when we're caught in that moment, heart racing, adrenaline surging, reason often takes a back seat. But here's the secret: anger only has as much power as we give it. And this is where Stoicism offers a solution, not by telling us to suppress anger, but by teaching us how to master it. Picture this: you're at the grocery store after a long, exhausting day. You finally get in line, and just as it's your turn to check out, someone cuts right in front of you. No apology, no acknowledgement. Instantly, your blood pressure spikes. Your mind starts drafting a speech that would put any courtroom drama to shame. But then you stop. What if you did nothing? What if, instead of reacting, you simply observed? That pause, that moment of silence, isn't weakness, it's power. Because in that instant, you've done something most people struggle to do. You've chosen control over impulse. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful rulers, understood this well. He once wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" Think about that. It's never just the thing that makes us angry. It's the chain reaction that follows. Losing your temper at a coworker. Now you're the difficult one. Yelling at your spouse. That argument lingers long after the words are spoken. Anger convinces us that we're defending ourselves, when in reality, we're just making things worse. But let's be honest, staying calm isn't always easy. That's why the Stoics practiced stepping back from the situation before reacting. It's not about bottling things up, but about choosing a response that actually serves you. When we get angry, it's often because we feel out of control. But the irony, our real power, comes from realizing that we don't have to control the world, just ourselves. A key part of mastering anger is understanding what triggers it. Is it a sense of unfairness? A bruised ego, once you identify the source, you start to see that most of what makes you mad isn't about the other person. It's about your own expectations. Epicurus put it simply, you control your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The grocery store example that frustration doesn't come from the person cutting in line. It comes from your expectation that people should always be polite. Shift that perspective, and suddenly their rudeness loses its grip on you. Of course, none of this means we should tolerate injustice or let people walk all over us. But responding with measured thought instead of blind rage is far more effective. If something truly needs to be addressed, it's best done from a place of calm, not fury. Nelson Mandela, after years of imprisonment, could have emerged filled with bitterness. Instead, he chose to use his experience to lead his country toward reconciliation, not because he was weak, but because he understood that anger alone doesn't create change. Wisdom does. So how do we apply this in daily life? Start small. When frustration rises, take a breath. Give yourself the space to think before you act. Use deep breathing, shift your focus, or even better, channel that energy into something productive. Exercise, write, create, do anything that transforms that fire into something worthwhile. Anger isn't inherently bad. In fact, when directed properly, it can be a powerful motivator. The key is to let it fuel you, not control you. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to never feel anger, it's to respond in a way that benefits you, not one that leaves you cleaning up the damage. The next time you're faced with a moment of frustration, remember, silence is an option, and sometimes it's the most powerful one you have. Number 4, silence in the middle of false rumors. Rumors are like wildfire. They spread fast, burn hot, and often leave nothing but destruction in their wake. When people talk, stories twist and turn, picking up exaggerations along the way. And before you know it, fiction becomes fact in the minds of many. In moments like these, when you find yourself at the center of gossip or false accusations, the instinct to defend yourself is overwhelming. You want to correct every falsehood, confront every whisper, and prove your innocence beyond any doubt. But Stoicism offers a more effective approach, one that doesn't drain your energy or pull you into a never-ending battle silence. It's easy to believe that speaking up is the only way to regain control, but often the opposite is true. The more you argue against false accusations, the more attention you bring to them. The more you try to explain yourself, the more you sound like you have something to explain. Words can be manipulated, taken out of context, and twisted into further misunderstanding. But silence cannot be distorted. It stands firm, unshaken by the chaos around it. As Marcus Aurelius said, you hold power over your thoughts, not over outside events. The opinions of others, the stories they create, and the judgments they make, these are all outside of your control. But your response that is yours to command. Choosing not to engage in gossip and false narratives is not an act of surrender, it's an act of confidence. It shows that you trust the truth to reveal itself in time. It also preserves your peace, keeping you from being consumed by frustration or resentment. Stoicism teaches that inner strength is built by focusing only on what you can control: your own actions, your own integrity, your own path. When you stop giving power to the noise around you, you free yourself from the burden of constantly proving yourself to others. Rumors will always rise and fall, but character is steady. It is not defined by the opinions of the crowd, but by the way you carry yourself when faced with adversity. By choosing silence, you are not ignoring the situation. You are refusing to let it control you. And, in the end, that quiet confidence speaks louder than any defense ever could. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting "Yes" below. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear from you. Number 5, how to deal with loss. Loss has a way of bringing everything to a halt. The world around you keeps moving. People go about their daily lives. But inside there's nothing but silence, the kind that lingers in empty spaces, in memories that suddenly feel sharper, in the weight of what's missing. It's tempting to fill that silence with distractions, to escape the discomfort by keeping busy or numbing the pain. But Stoicism offers a different approach, one that doesn't seek to run from grief, but to understand it, to use it as a means of growth rather than a source of endless suffering. When we lose something or someone important, whether it's a loved one, a career, or a dream we've held on to for years, our first reaction is often resistance. We fight against the reality of it, replaying moments in our minds, thinking about what we should have done differently, as if we could rewrite the past. But Stoicism teaches us that the only thing we can ever control is our response. We cannot undo loss, but we can decide how we move forward. Seneca once said, "The day we fear as our last is but the birthday of eternity." This idea shifts our perspective. Loss is not an end, but a transition, a shift in our journey rather than its destruction. It's natural to feel pain, but what if, instead of avoiding it, we allowed ourselves to sit with it? Silence after a loss is not an absence of feeling, but a space for reflection, for processing, for healing. It allows us to make peace with what we cannot change. Instead of viewing grief as something to suppress, we can recognize it as a sign of love, of deep connection. The pain of loss is only as strong as the meaning of something held in our lives, and that meaning doesn't disappear, it transforms. The Stoics believed that every hardship is an opportunity for growth. Loss strips away illusions, reminding us of what truly matters. It forces us to appreciate the present, to focus on what we still have, rather than what is gone. Gratitude, even in grief, can be a powerful tool. It doesn't erase pain, but it balances it. Writing down what remains, whether it's supportive relationships, memories, or personal strength gained through hardship, can shift our perspective from emptiness to appreciation. No one escapes loss, but how we respond to it defines our ability to endure. By embracing the silence rather than running from it, by focusing on what we can control, and by finding meaning even in pain, we create the possibility of not just surviving loss, but becoming stronger because of it. Healing is not about forgetting, but about learning to carry what we've lost in a way that allows us to keep moving forward. Number 6. Navigating ignorance with Stoic grace. Have you ever encountered someone so sure of their knowledge, yet their actions reveal a complete misunderstanding of the topic at hand? It's both amusing and frustrating. Right. Whether it's a coworker who insists they know the best way to do something but repeatedly fails, or an internet expert arguing without facts. These situations test our patience, but instead of getting frustrated, this is the perfect opportunity to practice Stoic wisdom. Take the story of Socrates, one of the greatest philosophers of all time. He was known for his ability to expose ignorance, not through heated debate, but through calm and skillful questioning. Socrates didn't argue. He simply asked thoughtful questions that forced people to confront the flaws in their reasoning. The result, those who were right, often unraveled under their own contradictions. Now, imagine applying this approach in your life. Instead of trying to convince someone they're wrong, which rarely works, try asking sincere questions. What makes you so sure? Or, have you considered another perspective? These questions don't attack. They invite reflection. And more often than not, the other person will either rethink their stance or at least realize they might not know as much as they thought. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control others, only our response to them. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you meet someone who is stubbornly wrong, you have a choice: react with frustration or approach the situation with curiosity and patience. But let's be honest, sometimes people just don't want to listen, no matter how rational your approach. In those cases, take another Stoic lesson to heart. Silence is powerful. Galileo, despite having undeniable proof that the earth revolved around the sun, faced immense opposition from those who refused to accept the truth. Instead of wasting energy arguing, he let time and evidence do the talking. He knew the truth didn't need to be shouted, it would stand on its own. By practicing patience and strategic silence, you free yourself from unnecessary frustration. You don't need to win every argument, you don't need to change every mind. True wisdom is knowing when to speak and when to let things go. Ask yourself what's more valuable, proving a point, or maintaining your inner peace. So, next time you find yourself in a conversation with someone who is confidently wrong, take a deep breath. Channel your inner Socrates and decide, will you question, will you stay silent, or will you simply walk away? The choice is yours, and in that choice lies your power. Number 7. How to deal with rumors. There's a moment in everyone's life when they realize they've become the subject of whispers. Maybe it starts as a small misunderstanding, but soon enough, it takes on a life of its own, passed from person to person, each retelling adding a little more spice. It's frustrating, even infuriating. Your first instinct might be to chase down every rumor, correct every lie, and prove your innocence. But let's be real. Has that ever actually worked? Consider the story of a man named Daniel, a dedicated teacher who spent years helping struggling students get back on track. He poured his heart into his work, staying late, offering extra tutoring, and even organizing community programs. But when one student, angry about a failing grade, started spreading rumors that Daniel played favorites, things quickly spiraled. Parents whispered, colleagues exchanged weary glances, and soon his reputation was on shaky ground. He could have defended himself, called out the lies, or demanded an apology. Instead, he took a different approach. He kept showing up, kept teaching, and let his work speak for itself. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who did the injury." Daniel understood this. Instead of feeding the fire, he starved it of oxygen. Over time, parents saw how their children improved under his guidance, his colleagues noticed his unwavering dedication, and the student who started the rumor moved on to a new target, as people who thrive on gossip always do. This story isn't just about Daniel, it's about you. How often have you let someone else's words control your emotions, dictate your actions, or rob you of your peace? Stoicism teaches that we can't control what others say, only how we respond. Epictetus reminds us that if the rumors are true, we should correct ourselves. If they're false, why waste time worrying? But let's be honest, ignoring rumors is easier said than done. It's human nature to want to defend yourself, to set the record straight. That's why the real challenge isn't silence, it's confidence. When you choose not to engage, you're making a powerful statement. I don't need to explain myself to those who don't know me. That level of self-assurance is intimidating to those who gossip because they rely on your reaction to fuel the drama. So how do you get there? First, control your emotions. Reacting in anger only makes the rumor feel more real. Take a step back, breathe, and remind yourself that what others say doesn't define you. Second, seek clarity. Is this gossip even worth your energy? If the people spreading it don't matter, then neither do their words. And finally, let your actions speak. Over time, those who matter will see the reality of who you are. The rest, they'll move on to the next story. Because at the end of the day, rumors don't destroy reputations. Overreacting to them does. So, the next time you hear whispers, do what the wisest minds in history have always done. Smile, stay silent, and keep walking forward. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting "Yes" below. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear from you. Number 8. When confronted with injustice, life has an annoying habit of being unfair. You could be the most honest, hard-working person in the room, and somehow someone less deserving gets the promotion. You could be kind and generous, yet people still gossip behind your back. You could play by all the rules, and yet there will always be moments when life throws a curveball that leaves you wondering, why me? It's enough to make anyone feel bitter, frustrated, maybe even vengeful. But before you start plotting your revenge or launching into an endless spiral of self-pity, let's talk about how Stoic philosophy gives us a much better way to handle life's injustices. Imagine you are a young scientist working tirelessly on an innovative project, one that could change lives. You've put in the late nights, the extra effort, the sacrifice. Then, at a major conference, your supervisor takes full credit for your work. Your name is barely mentioned. You feel the anger rising in your chest. You want to stand up and call them out, demand recognition, but you don't. Not because you're weak, but because you understand something deeper. Real power isn't in reacting, it's in controlling how you respond. This is exactly what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." The moment you lash out, you've lost control. But if you stay calm, if you continue your work with integrity, eventually the truth reveals itself, and the respect you build from your restraint will outlast any fleeting satisfaction revenge could have given you. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control how we react. It's easy to get caught up in the emotions of the moment, to want to correct every injustice immediately. But ask yourself, what's more powerful, shouting into the void or proving through consistent action that nothing can shake your character? The greatest Stoics, from Seneca to Epictetus, emphasized emotional discipline. This doesn't mean suppressing how you feel, but rather understanding that emotions are temporary, and acting on them impulsively often makes things worse. Take a moment to think about a time when someone wronged you. Maybe it was a boss who overlooked your contributions, a friend who betrayed your trust, or a stranger who disrespected you. Now think about how you reacted. Did it bring you peace? Did it resolve the situation? More often than not, when we react emotionally to injustice, we only fuel the fire. The more upset we become, the more power we give to the situation. But when we meet unfairness with patience and strategy, we take that power back. This doesn't mean we should accept injustice passively. Stoicism is not about being a doormat. It's about choosing the right battles and fighting them with intelligence, rather than raw emotion. Think of a lawyer who defends an innocent client. If they let their anger at the injustice cloud their judgment, they risk making mistakes. But if they channel that energy into building a solid case, they increase their chances of winning. The same applies to life. When faced with unfairness, don't let it shake you. Instead, stay grounded, assess the situation, and respond in a way that aligns with your values. One of the hardest things about injustice is the feeling of powerlessness it creates. But true power lies in refusing to let it define you. There's an old saying, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. You may not be able to stop unfair situations from happening, but you can decide how to navigate them. Maybe the unfair promotion at work means it's time to develop new skills and prove your worth elsewhere. Maybe the gossip about you is a test of your confidence. Will you let it shake you, or will you continue living as the person you know yourself to be? Nelson Mandela once said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies." Holding on to bitterness does nothing but harm you. The most powerful people in history were not those who retaliated in anger, but those who took life's unfairness and used it as fuel to create something greater. And you can do the same. The next time life deals you an unfair hand, instead of reacting, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what is the most powerful response I can have? Because often, the most powerful response isn't a reaction at all. It's the quiet, steady resilience of a person who refuses to be shaken. Number 9. How to handle insults with Stoic wisdom. There's a strange kind of power in silence, not the awkward, uncomfortable kind, but the deliberate, controlled kind that turns the tables on an aggressor. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said that if someone provokes you, it's because your mind is complicit in the provocation. It sounds harsh at first, but think about it. How many times have you let an insult, a rude comment, or a passive-aggressive remark ruin your entire day? The truth is, the words themselves don't have power. The real power lies in whether or not you choose to react. Take Eleanor Roosevelt, for example. As the First Lady of the United States, she faced relentless criticism from politicians, journalists, and even members of her own party. But instead of snapping back, she remained composed. She famously said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." That's Stoicism in action. She understood that an insult only carries weight if you choose to carry it. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was the ultimate show of strength. Now think about how this applies to your own life. When was the last time someone said something that got under your skin? Maybe it was a rude coworker, a family member, or even a stranger online. Did your reaction help the situation, or did it only make you feel worse the next time you're insulted? Resist the urge to fire back. Take a breath. Let the words pass through you like wind through an open window, and move on. Silence isn't just the absence of words, it's the presence of control. And in a world where everyone is shouting, the one who remains calm will always stand above the noise. So here we are at the end of our journey through the 9 moments where silence isn't just golden, it's downright legendary. If there's one thing we've learned from Marcus Aurelius, it's that wisdom isn't about shouting the loudest, it's about knowing when to say nothing at all. Imagine how different your life could be if, instead of arguing with fools, you just smiled and let them tire themselves out. Instead of reacting to negativity, you let it roll off like water on a duck's back. Feels pretty powerful, right? So here's my challenge for you. Try it just once. The next time someone tests your patience, don't react. Just breathe, stay calm, and enjoy the sweet victory of knowing you're above the noise. And when it works, because trust me, it will, come back and tell me about it in the comments. If you love this deep dive into Stoic silence, hit that like button. It lets me know you want more wisdom like this. And if you haven't yet, subscribe because the path to a calmer, stronger, unshakable you is just getting started. See you in the next lesson.